Hey everyone, this is Max from Unsubscribed Healthcare, and today we're going to be going over shortcuts. The shortcuts is located in the main folder for the PT Elite package, and a shortcut is created when you put in a clinician's name into the company information tab. So when you click that, type in the name, NPI number, state license number, and then they sign it, this folder is automatically created with that clinician's name. The purpose of this is so that each clinician can have their own shortcuts because people use different words for documentation, different phrases for documentation, and it makes it so that you can have more than one area for people to have their shortcuts rather than just having a whole conglomerate of shortcuts for the whole entire clinic. So this allows for more personalization and customization. In order to get rid of this, in order to organize this and make it look nicer, what you're going to do is that after a clinician has been made in the form, the file has been made, you're going to click on it. You're going to open up the Google Sheet, the workbook that is there, and then you want to click on Update Shortcuts. When you click Update Shortcuts, it's going to ask you to authorize. What this is going to do is that it's going to organize it so that it's all in one folder. After you click on Update, it will bring all of the HTML links right here, and it's going to create a folder called Forms, and it's going to move those forms in here. So you can see it's starting to work. Good. We come back here, and now you can see all of those forms that were there have now been moved, and it is only Jane Doe with the shortcut forms here. If we come back in, we can start to take a look. We have several different shortcut sheets within this one workbook. There's subjective, objective, assessment, flow sheet, pelvic floor, and neuro. So any of these shortcuts will be brought forward into every single patient workbook inside the database. You can see here that they're labeled L all the way to T is subjective, U all the way to AA is objective, AB all the way to AF is assessment, AG to AI is plan of care, and AJ to AP is flow sheet. Each tab on the shortcut workbook is brought forward using import range. You can see import range at the top here, and it says D19. If we look at D19, D19 correlates with the physical therapist who has been selected. So this is the workbook ID for John Smith. If we go back, we can see, can highlight, you can see this is going to equal the top here, right? And you can see, we'll paste it here. So you can see that those first couple of numbers match up. So that's how it's brought forward by using the ID. It then looks for subjective tab, and it goes C3 through J. So if we go back to John Smith's workbook, subjective C3 through J, it will give you all of the titles as well as all of the information below that. If we want to update a physical therapist so that they have their own subjective shortcuts coming in there, we want to go to either the eval or the treatment page, and we're going to update John Smith to Jane Doe, and we're going to click Update Shortcuts. This will run a script, and that changes the value of cell C19, and then it calls forward the ID for the Jane Smith shortcut workbook. So now you can see here, this is the Jane Smith workbook, and if we go back to the Max Shippen and we look here at the subjective, you'll notice that there's no shortcut available because I deleted it from that one. If we go back to treatment now, and just to show you, we'll click on John Smith, update shortcuts, come back to the database, and now you can see that there is, in fact, one shortcut available. So how can you use the shortcuts in order to improve your documentation time? Well, if we come over here to the patient's workbook, I've organized it so these drop-down menus correlate with the database and will fill in or have options available for each thing that has been submitted for each of these titles. So in row 3, you can see there's history of present illness, there's past medical history, and so on and so forth, going all the way down to red flags. So if there's common sayings or common things that I like to type, I can put those in here. You can see right now all I have is this one that's been submitted. This is a pretty advanced technique that I will show you guys in a later video, but we can submit our own new shortcuts. So, for example, we're on Jane Doe. We'll click on Update Shortcuts, so it's just Jane Doe's, which means that we shouldn't have any options available to us because we deleted those. If I want to come up here and click on Subjective Shortcuts, now what it's going to do, it's going to sideload a window for the subjective shortcut. So in History of Present Illness, we can say the patient is a... For right now, we're just going to put some underlines so that we can manually replace it later. All right, so now that we put in an example for History of Present Illness, we will click Submit. And now you will see that in the History of Present Illness, we can click on the drop-down, and what we wrote is now available. We can go in and edit this. I forget how old I said I was. Okay, so it's saying that I'm 32. So I can just go ahead and replace that with 32 and click Enter. And now that allows us to do this anytime going forward when we have a patient. If we want to make it female, we'd be able to make it female. This is also searchable, so if I said male, it would come up there. If I want to submit another response and just make it female, click Submit. We'll come here, and I'm going to type in female. Give it a second to update. Female, right? So you can now click on that, and you'd be able to select that. So that's how you're able to improve your documentation time using that. Subjective shortcuts correlate with the subjective areas. Objective shortcuts correlate with the objective areas. Assessment obviously goes with assessment. Plan of care goes with plan of care. And flowsheet goes with flowsheet. If there was an error in what you've submitted, you would need to go into the subjective shortcut workbook of that clinician and update it there. I've made it so that you can search in column B1 in order to highlight the area that you're looking for. So if I type in female and I click enter, now you can see it has highlighted this area so that we know that this is the row that contains that one that we're looking for. You can also click on it and it will highlight the area where there's a match. You can also add subjective shortcuts by clicking on the subjective shortcut button in the shortcut workbook and be able to submit them this way. Objective is the exact same as subjective, but obviously the answers are related to objective observations, measures, palpation, appearance, and comments. You can add more to this. You would just want to update your database as well as your templates in order to incorporate those into your own custom templates. Assessment is the same thing. I have provided some pre-made stuff that I use. Flowsheet, I have added the search, clear, update, delete, and save that we call scuds. This allows us to quickly search and update if there's a common treatment that we do, and say there's more of a common rep that we do or anything else, we'll be able to update that a little bit more quickly using the SCUD system. The reason I have a SCUD system for the flow sheet but not the other ones is that it uses the treatment name as the identifier, whereas all of these other shortcuts don't have a name. They just fill in shortcuts for that section. So I wouldn't be able to do that because you need an identifier. Pelvic floor also does a modified SCUDs of the exercises. So it doesn't affect the bladder, bowel, sexual function, or any of these other ones. What it does is it does affect the name of treatment. So starting in column I, you'll be able to pull forward like the abdominal bracing and update any of these areas as well, which coincide with the title of each of these columns. Neuro is also able to be highlighted. It is not include a SCUDS, but you are able to, again, update and add neuro shortcuts by clicking on the button. And again, this can be updated from any single patient workbook as well. This concludes how to use the shortcut workbook and shortcut functions. Please refer to the user guide if you have any other additional questions. Next up, we will be going on to the pre-made templates.